There's the typical, I first heard about Bitcoin and I dismissed Bitcoin, right? Which is also part of my story. But then, first of all, the node network is going to continue to grow. That's an opt-in network. But again, it's already grown to 30 some odd nodes in 18 months, and it shows no sign of slowing down. As Max Kaiser famously says, right? You don't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin changes you. And this is an advantage, in my opinion, because unlike other industries that are very, what I might call credential driven, Bitcoin don't care. And Bitcoiners do not care. It's wonderful if you have credentials and experience. That's great. But that doesn't, if we want to be, global sound money that allows 8 billion people to be able to preserve their time and energy through space and time without it being stolen from them, then this was an inevitable place that we had to get to. So I'm grateful that...
Hector, thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate you having me. Thanks, Rob.
Yes, so you have a storied history of being within the Bitcoin community, helping to grow it, and you are a part of My First Bitcoin, Me Premier Bitcoin.
Yeah. And
you just presented this week at the Unconference. So tell us about this group, what do they do, and what you presented there.
Thanks, I appreciate the opportunity, Rob. So Me Premier Bitcoin is an education nonprofit based in El Salvador. They were started in 2021, just after President Bukele passed the legal tender law in El Salvador. And John Dennehy, who's the founder of the organization, he just immediately recognized that there was an incredible opportunity and an incredible need to now educate a massive population that probably had very little exposure to Bitcoin about what this new money is. And so he began developing a curriculum, which now over the course of a few years has grown into what's known as the Bitcoin Diploma. And that is typically a 10-week program that is delivered in all kinds of different settings, schools, community organizations, meetups, so on and so forth. So that started growing within El Salvador. And because his vision was also for that open source education in Bitcoin can change the world, he made it available to anybody. And as people started to learn about the content and the way that they were delivering instruction on Bitcoin, more people wanted to be a part of it. And first within El Salvador and then beyond, people started using the content. So then John took it to the next level in creating what we call the node network, which is organizations that are all around the world who are independently implementing the diploma program in their settings. And this is places everywhere from Kenya to the UK to Alaska to South Africa. There are nodes in 30 some odd countries now, or 30 some odd nodes in 20 some odd countries. And that's only been in about a year and a half, and it continues to grow. So then my role there is to sort of help with developing the curriculum, with coming up with ways to make the instruction as effective as possible. That's my background. And so as we all do in Bitcoin, we try to bring the skills that we've acquired in life, and we try to find a way to contribute those skills in Bitcoin. And I feel very fortunate to be a part of the organization and have a chance to contribute to their mission.
Yeah, so you have a background in education.
Yeah.
And how have you used that with Me Premier Bitcoin? Have you worked on the workbook with them? What exactly has that contributed to it?
Yeah, I've done some work with them. So I helped them develop, initially, one of the challenges that they started to face as an organization is now you have a lot of people in a lot of areas all trying to teach the same content. So then naturally it's, well, how does that scale with a level of quality and consistency so that you know that the person in Nairobi is getting the same kind of education as the person in Miami, as the person in Tokyo, so on and so forth. So I've got some background in teacher training and that sort of thing. So I worked with a work group of volunteers within the organization who were also educators to develop a teacher onboarding and training program, a guide for making sure that the teachers have the level of content knowledge, the level of teaching and classroom management knowledge, and just a way to make sure that everybody is prepared to deliver the diploma in a way that's consistent with the quality standards of the organization. So I've worked on that, and then since then I'm now starting to work on some of the diploma revisions that happen each year. So really whatever's needed at the time and where I can make a contribution, I'm happy to participate.
And how does My First Bitcoin plan on growing within the next year or two?
So in a number of ways. First of all, the node network is going to continue to grow. That's an opt-in network. But again, it's already grown to 30 some odd nodes in 18 months, and it shows no sign of slowing down. We continue to get applications not only for individual teachers, but for organizations that want to expand the network. And also within El Salvador specifically, now the diploma program is being taught to 150 schools within El Salvador as part of their official curriculum. And that is also expected to expand potentially to the entire country within about the next year or so. And other educational organizations are starting to show a lot of interest in also implementing that diploma program in more formal education settings. What I expect is just like the Node network organically grew from people finding out that there's a better way to teach Bitcoin and then adopting that approach. I think as people start to see 1, 2, 3 school systems, homeschooling groups, different groups like that, they're also going to want to implement that because it's a terrific program and it's a great way to give people a quick way to start learning about Bitcoin.
Yeah, so you're helping people learn about Bitcoin in the classroom, but you've also helped orange people outside of the classroom. You've written numerous articles for...
Don't we all?
But you've got a knack for it, and you've written some articles for Bitcoin Magazine. So yeah, please tell us about that and your approach towards orange pilling the masses.
Yeah, so I've written a couple of articles for the magazine, and again, you write what you know. That's always the best way to communicate information. So part of my background also is our family owns a company that manufactures barber capes and for beauty salons and barbershops. And knowing that industry a little, it struck me one day that the hair salon, the barbershop environment is a really, really unique space. For a number of reasons. First of all, it's a place where you have a pretty extended period of time that you're spending in a pretty distraction-free environment, hard to play with the phone when you're getting your hair cut. And you have a trust relationship usually with that person that has gone on for months or years or even decades sometimes. So because of that, it's a really great place for there to be a conversation to happen about Bitcoin because there are already conversations happening between you and your barber or you and your hairdresser. So it just seemed to me like a really interesting way to talk about barbers and hairstylists because of their position in communities, the environment that their clients come in, and also who are the clients that they're talking to. Because no matter who you are, doctor, lawyer, factory worker, homemaker, whatever it is, you are going to be in that environment. So barbers are uniquely positioned to benefit from Bitcoin themselves, and then also to talk to a lot of different kinds of folks where that might not happen with your doctor that you might spend 5 minutes with. It's just different. It's special. It's unique. And so I wrote an article about, how to engage with your barber about Bitcoin to educate them, and then how to then multiply your efforts by virtue of their ability to engage with all of their clients to sort of, fast track or shortcut people learning about Bitcoin.
Yes. And so you're talking about Bitcoin all the time, and you're part of the Bitcoin community. You also have a show on X, right? It's Twitter Space, where you talk about Bitcoin on a weekly basis.
Yeah, actually. So a longtime friend of mine, Tracy Elliott, she started doing that show a handful of months ago. And then she mentioned to me, hey, would you like to, maybe co-host? First, I came on as a guest on the show. And then she was kind enough to invite me to co-host, and I immediately accepted. And that's a terrific time. The show is called Bitcoin is Life. Again, that was Tracy's vision. And really what she wanted to spotlight and what we now seek to spotlight is all of the various human stories that exist within Bitcoin. What we want is for people to be able to see themselves reflected in the kinds of guests and stories that we try to tell. Having folks like Michael Saylor or, Preston Pish or some of these folks who are in different areas, they have amazing stories and they're amazing communicators, but not everybody necessarily identifies immediately with that, with somebody like that. So we try to have people on who are contributing to Bitcoin in different ways, who have had interesting orange pill stories where people can say, oh, wow, like that person's just like me. Yeah. If I can learn a little bit from that person, if that person's finding a way to understand how this can benefit them, well, then maybe Bitcoin is for me as well. So that's sort of what the show seeks to highlight. And it's a lot of fun. We've made some great people through the show. And
in talking to all these different people, what are some common threads that you see between their life stories that brought them to Bitcoin?
It's interesting. For a lot of them, there's the typical, I first heard about Bitcoin and I dismissed Bitcoin, right? Which is also part of my story. But then with multiple touches, eventually recognizing that there was something there, sometimes because there was a challenge in their life, economic or otherwise, that maybe made them realize that Bitcoin was something that they might want to look into a little further. That allowed them to then start learning enough to then get hooked the way that we all do once we realize that this is a whole lot more than number go up. And then being, humble enough to accept that, oh, okay, maybe this thing that I thought that I knew about, this money thing that I thought I understood, maybe I didn't understand it so well. Maybe I should learn a little more. And then on from there we go, where we realize that there's a lot that we thought that we knew that maybe isn't exactly what we thought.
Yeah, and once you get into Bitcoin, you've been studying it a long time. A lot of people desire to work in Bitcoin too, right?
Yes.
And so that's sort of what happened with you, right? You got into the Bitcoin community and then you started working full time in it. So why don't you tell us about that journey and what you're working on now?
Now, I wanted to quickly interrupt today's interview to give a massive shout out to our lead sponsor, Rhino Bitcoin. Rhino is a Bitcoin banking solution that combines traditional financial services with the power of Bitcoin. Created by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners, Rhino offers a range of different services. You can buy Bitcoin, you can sell Bitcoin, you can withdraw straight to cold storage, and you can even pay other people using the Bitcoin Lightning Network. You can also purchase gift cards with sats at the click of a button, and you can even connect a multi-signature setup to Casa, all by using the Rhino application. Additionally, you can even send cash globally to your family and friends using Rhino, and soon you'll be able to pay bills, borrow money against your Bitcoin, and even save Bitcoin for your retirement, all in the one seamless application. You guys can visit rhinobitcoin.com to download Rhino today and experience the future of Bitcoin banking.
Yeah, so initially, again, because teaching is in my background, I said, well, maybe I can find a way to teach. And so a couple of years ago, I got connected with Palms Crypto Academy and started developing, a Bitcoin sort of specific track to teach sort of the what is money, history of money, inflation, debt becoming money, that sort of foundational set of lessons, and started teaching that. And through that, through the network that they have there of the alumni, I was at the conference in 2022 in Miami and got introduced to Lyle Hauser, who's the CEO of Rhino. And we got to talking, and he shared his vision for, a platform that would offer a broad suite of financial services that would be Bitcoin only, so that as people come into the space, they could have the kind of experience they're used to in fiat world, and develop a relationship with, one company where they could encounter and engage with the services that they want as they go through their Bitcoin journey, which is something that has been missing in the space. So I believe in that mission, and that's when I got associated with Rhino, and I'm still with them as the COO now. And we're having a great time, building our brand and introducing people to the services that we offer. And then last year at the conference in 23, that's when I met John from Me Premier Bitcoin for the first time, because I had heard about them during that period, and volunteered to help wherever I could. And so now I've had the chance to do that for about a year. So it's really just been about finding, places or groups that maybe could benefit from something that I could do, offering to help, doing some proof of work, and then figuring out how to contribute more.
Yeah. And so what has it been like working on a Bitcoin business, on Rhino in particular, starting with a small team and growing it? And what kind of challenges have you faced and overcome the last year or so?
Many, many of which were unexpected. Folks that are in this part of the space will certainly be able to sympathize that things like banking relationships can be a real moving target. And that certainly has been the case for us. It sometimes has made us have to pause a little bit. Also, just really thinking about, what do we want? How do we want to approach the community? And not only how do we want to approach, let's say, Bitcoiners to say, hey, I've got a better way for you to Bitcoin. That's great. But also, okay, who else can we be reaching out to? Where are there, pockets, groups, communities that maybe are not already, in Bitcoin or connected to Bitcoin directly, but maybe they're experiencing a problem that we know Bitcoin solved that maybe they don't know Bitcoin solves. And can we actually develop tools so that when we connect with them, we help them solve their problem And then we're like, oh, by the way, if you're curious as to why that happened, and we can then maybe bring them in so that we can actually expand the community through the services that we're offering. So we're trying to do a little bit of both.
Cool. So go into detail about what Rhino can do for users right now.
Yeah. So some of the core capabilities that we already have is, of course, people can buy and sell Bitcoin. They can withdraw off the platform anytime they want into a couple of formats. They can withdraw to their own wallets. We also developed an integration with Casa because we know some people want to go that next step into maybe collaborative custody. So people can connect with their Casa accounts from within the app, and then they can directly deposit Bitcoin from Rhino straight to their Casa multisig without having to go off of the app. And we've got some other integrations in that area that we're also in the process of developing. They can also use Lightning. So Lightning is built into the platform. They can make Lightning payments, receive Lightning payments. They can also instantly transfer from their, Rhino on-chain wallet, if you will, directly into their Lightning wallet so that they can top up and fund that wallet whenever they want. They can buy gift cards on the platform directly. They can pay for those in either USD or in Bitcoin. Of course, they can on and off ramp USD onto the platform via ACH or wires. And they can also send remittances. Speaking to some of the use cases that exist that we know are, maybe call it Bitcoin adjacent, but maybe not people thinking about it in Bitcoin terms yet. So folks can get on there. They can send funds currently to India and Vietnam, Philippines very shortly, Mexico shortly after that, many other countries coming soon. Mm-hmm. And they can send that money instantly. Bitcoin serves as the rails, and then it drops in local fiat into their recipient's bank account, fintech app, whatever it is. So those are some of the things that we have live right now. And then we've got some other things coming very soon.
Cool. Yes. So it's people can be interacting with Bitcoin without even knowing it, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is going to, many people around the world will probably have that experience where Bitcoin will be a foundational level of the financial system and they won't even know that they're interacting on these rails.
That's exactly right. And because of that, because we know that we're going to be seeking to sort of bring people into Bitcoin through Rhino, we really thought it was also important to make sure that we give them some tools within the app so that as they start to get curious about like, how's this working? How can I be sending remittances for 80, 90% less than I was sending it with these traditional platforms that I'm used to using in that world? We wanted to make sure that the education that they might need to take those first steps on their Bitcoin journey was also there. So we also worked with the team at Simple Bitcoin app to integrate their gamified app-based learning tool into Rhino directly. So users can go in, they can tap on the learn button, and that immediately puts them on their Bitcoin learning journey where they start at the what is money and learning all the basics, understanding some of the challenges of the fiat system, learning about Bitcoin, learning about Lightning, even learning about things like AI. And as they go through those lessons, they answer little questions, they earn points, they can then spin a wheel where they get free sats. And then those sats, they can tap one button and it dumps them right into their Lightning wallet so that they can spend them or save them immediately. So again, we want to bring them in the door, but we want to make sure that they get the right kind of education and the right kind of information so that they don't end up somewhere in the space that they maybe don't want to be.
Yeah. So people have heard your story now and know that you found this work in Bitcoin. What kind of actionable tips would you give them to find a job for themselves in this industry?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you. The first thing I would say is talk to people, reach out. Networking is a big buzzword and it works, but it can also be scary sometimes because I'm nobody, right? Why would anybody want to respond to me? Bitcoin, one of the greatest things about the Bitcoin space, in my opinion, is the accessibility of the people in it and the willingness of people to really sort of reach back down the ladder and help pull the next person up. It's really been amazing to see that happen, even in my own experience, and I've seen it happen with so many other people. So just don't be afraid to reach out. Ask questions, of course. Be thoughtful. Engage with the person on a human to human level. But build that network little by little, because as small as any industry is, Bitcoin is infinitesimally small as an industry. And almost anybody in the space, from the most famous celebrity to the person running the biggest Bitcoin business, is probably not more than 2 steps away from where you are right now. And if you just take that first step toward the community, they are going to run in your direction. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there, would be my first thing. The other thing I would say is do some proof of work, right? Now, maybe you don't have the work right now, but you can comment on work that other people are doing. You can share that information with others. You can share Bitcoin with others and share that proof of work across whatever kind of platforms and channels you like to engage with. So Bitcoin is all about proof of work, and the Bitcoin community is all about proof of work. And this is an advantage, in my opinion, because unlike other industries that are very what I might call credential driven, Bitcoin don't care, and Bitcoiners do not care. It's wonderful if you have credentials and experience. That's great. But that doesn't get anything done in and of itself. And if you are willing to put in the work, demonstrate that you have the ability and the inclination to be productive and to add value, you are going to find a very, very receptive community, because Bitcoin literally, it's every single kind of skill that exists in the world is needed in the community, and that is only going to grow.
Yeah.
So that's what I would encourage people to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bitcoin continues to grow. The Overton window is shifting.
Yep.
Just saw RFK Jr. yesterday at the Bitcoin conference say that he wants to buy 4 million Bitcoin for the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve.
That's amazing.
Yes.
It's a lot of Bitcoin.
That's a lot of Bitcoin. And so we're just 3 months away from this election here.
Yep.
And so how do you see Bitcoin playing out for the rest of 2024 into 25, this election season? And what do you think Bitcoin is going to mean on this geopolitical scale now that it's branching outside of small communities and onto the biggest stage available?
Yeah, it's we're on the best timeline, right? And I think just like when we see that chart of, hey, Bitcoin's growing faster than the internet, still, I think the acceleration of, like you said, the expansion of the Overton window, I think we're ahead of schedule on that as well. I don't know that I would have put that on the bingo card for 2024. So I love to see it. It's interesting because, of course, there's a facet of that many Bitcoiners have. I'm certainly one of them where we're maybe not completely trusting of some of the things that we hear from politicians and leaders in the administration. That said, if we want to be global sound money that allows 8 billion people to be able to preserve their time and energy through space and time without it being stolen from them, then this was an inevitable place that we had to get to. So I'm grateful that there is engagement from politicians. I'm grateful that there are some who recognize the importance and the value that Bitcoin brings to encouraging human freedom and flourishing. So I'm skeptical to see how those commitments are followed through on, but I'm hopeful that they will, because as Max Kaiser famously says, right, you don't change Bitcoin, Bitcoin changes you. And I think that we're seeing Bitcoin be Bitcoin and be that North Star that everybody eventually has to recognize is not going to change for them. And I think it's a real opportunity for us to engage with that community, to challenge our leaders who now say, I'm on Team Bitcoin, and to hold them accountable to those commitments. And I think on the other side of that, it's going to be a better world for everybody.
Yeah. Better world for everybody. That's what we're trying to build, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you, Hector. You've definitely put in the work, and you're helping to grow this community. And so excited to see what you continue to do and how Rhino grows into the future.
I appreciate that, Rob. Thanks so much for the time.
Cheers, man.
Yeah, you too.